Alright guys, so today we're going to take a look at the brand new Beats Studio Pro headphones. Now this has been basically a long time coming because the Beats Studio 3s, which these are basically an upgrade from, those have been around for a long time. In fact, they still use a micro USB plug-in to charge, and at this point pretty much nothing uses a micro USB plug-in. So this was an upgrade that's been a long time coming, but I'm really surprised at how much it's not really an upgrade. Now I know that this video is probably going to rub some people the wrong way because I'm not going to come out and say that this is the product to get or that it's worth the money, because I do have a lot of issues with the Beats Studio Pros, and we're going to talk about that throughout the video. But the first thing that I want to talk about is the price. These come in at $350 or maybe $360, where right now you can still get the Beats Studio 3s for about $160 or $170. I'll put a link to where you can get those. And really my point with this is the Beats Studio Pros worth double the price of the Beats Studio 3s? Did they do enough to improve upon that to warrant that price tag? And in my opinion, that is a hell no. It's not even close to what they're asking from a value standpoint. And again, this kind of rolls back to me testing out and trying all of the other products that I do. And I do understand with it being a Beats product, which is owned by Apple, you normally do have to pay a little bit more. And some people call this the Apple tax. You're paying for that name, you're paying for the research and everything that they put into their products. But in this case, I don't really know what they put into it to improve upon it on the originals. From a design standpoint, I feel like Apple just went completely lazy with this. It looks exactly like the Studio 3s, which again, it's been a design that's been around a while. And I know some people are going to say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But from a design standpoint, if you've had something that's been out for years and you're coming out with something called Pro, I think it should be a little bit different than the product it's replacing or improving upon. And really the only thing that they've done is they've removed the Beats logo from the top of the headband and from the metallic or chrome, which used to be right around the hinges. And that's it. I mean, the design is exactly the same. I do feel like the ear cups on these are a little bit shallower, which makes them seem a little more flush with your head. But being a little bit more shallow also means your ears are touching the fabric inside the headphones. I found these to get pretty warm pretty quick. So although a lot of people are going to use these at the gym or running, I feel like you sweat a little bit quicker in these than you do with the Studio 3s. Now these do have an all plastic build, which do keep these lightweight. And for the most part, they are a comfortable pair of headphones. They do fold down to where they're a little bit more compact so that they fit inside the case. And that's where I want to start my next argument. I do not feel like the case on these is an improvement upon the ones that you get with the Studio 3s. I think this is a step back because now you're not getting a hard case to protect your $350 investment. You are just getting a bag that looks like a travel bag. I mean, it was not going to resist any kind of crushing. It does have some pockets inside to hold the 3.5mm headphone cable they've included and the USB-C cable, which is now the upgrade that you would use to charge these. And another little secret about the USB-C cable is if you use the USB-C cable plugged into a USB-C device like, the Pixel phone or any tablet or anything that uses that, that is the only way you can take advantage of lossless audio. But it also gives you 3 different EQ settings that you can switch between. And this is kind of like a hidden thing. It's not in the manual anywhere, and it does make a difference. So, it has its signature sound, which is the way that it sounds out of the box. But by pressing the power button 2 times, you'll hear like a tone, and that's what causes these to switch over to the next setting, which is the entertainment one. And I found that that is the best way to listen to these headphones. Now, obviously, they're a wireless pair. That's going to be the way that most people prefer them. But the best listening experience was plugged in using that USB-C plug-in and using that entertainment EQ setting. It just brought everything much more to life. And the other setting you can switch it into is a conversation mode. So it just kind of focuses on the mids or dialogue a little bit more, and it just dials back the bass and the treble. It's just all mid-focused. So really that's only good for like TV shows and podcasts. I wouldn't listen to music in that mode at all. But the other thing is, in USB-C mode, the volume is lower than it is in wireless mode. So, you don't really get the best of both worlds. If you want it louder, you would listen to it in wireless mode. But if you want the best sound quality, you would listen to it with the USB-C plug-in. So, that's, again, kind of strange. And another thing is Apple did not put any sensors on these headphones, so they do not pause when you take them off. They don't resume when you put them back on. And in this price range, pretty much every headphone has this feature. There's also no Apple-specific chip, like the H1 chip, which basically makes it where you're able to be connected to all of your different Apple devices, and then it basically treats it like multi-point, where you can just switch from one device to the next. So like if you're using them on your MacBook and somebody calls it on your phone, it will just automatically switch over to where audio is being played out of. And you don't have that feature. You do have it where it will connect within all of your devices in your Apple ecosystem. And if you're on Android, it'll do the same thing. Like if you connect to your Android phone or then your Chromebook, it just is associated with that email account. And so although it's not using an Apple specific chip, it does have Bluetooth 5.3. It does have the spatial audio. If that is something you like, again, I do like this feature with movies and shows, but I absolutely am not a fan of spatial audio when it comes to listening to music. I just feel like it's a gimmick and it's not really adding anything to it. And I think it kind of takes away from the quality of the music you're listening to, but that's just personal opinion. I know a lot of people out there do like spatial audio, and you can take advantage of that with these headphones. Now, these do work with Beats app. Like in my case, I use an Android device. I was able to download the app, which it kind of tells you to do that once you connect the headphones. It does have the pop-up connection if you're on an iPhone or if you're on an Android device. And once I downloaded the app, there's really not much that you can do within the app. It does allow you to do some things like turn your ANC on or off, or turn it into transparency mode, which you can do all of that from the headphones. But it also allows you to use the Find My Headphones feature, where it will give you a general idea of where the last place you use your headphones while it was turned on. So it's not the same thing as using the Find My features with the AirPods or the AirPod Max or anything like that. And speaking of the AirPod Max, the way that I look at these Beats Studio Pros is it looks as though Apple decided they wanted to release a new pair of Beats, but they wanted to dial it back so that it did not compete with the AirPods Max. And this kind of goes to the noise canceling and the transparency. Yet the noise canceling and the transparency on these are very good, but they're not near as good as it is on the AirPods Max or even the AirPod Pros. And it's like Apple wants their own specific products to stand out amongst the Beats lineup. And it's like, the Beats is kind of like the stepchild to the AirPod Max. It's just taking that step back. And at $350, even though it's not the same retail price of the AirPod Max, you really should not be lacking on some of these features. Now, as far as the battery life on these, if you do decide to use them with the noise canceling off, you can squeeze about 40 hours out of these. But with the noise canceling on, it's going to pull it back down to 24 hours. So I think that is solid from a battery standpoint. That's going to get everybody through a full day, whether you're using the noise canceling on or off. And if you do happen to pick these up and they're dead, it does have a fast charge feature where a 10-minute charge will get you 4 hours of use. So I'm happy with the battery life that these have. I like the fast charging that these have. I was also very pleased with the microphones. The microphones I felt like picked up my voice very clearly, and I also felt like it did a really good job of blocking out a lot of the sounds around me. But you guys can be a judge by listening to a test here.
So here's the mic test using the Beats Studio Pros. And again, I think the mics on here are very good. It sounds fairly natural with just a little bit of digital noise, but this is what it would sound like if you were to take a call. And so now here's the mic test with a crowd noise being played, which you can hear here. And so this is what it would sound like if you were to take a call in public.
So now let's talk about the sound. And the first thing I want to point out is comparing them to the Studio 3s, which again is what they're the upgrade from. They're only slightly cleaner, maybe a little bit brighter than the Studio 3s. They actually have less bass impact, in my opinion, and it's not as loud as the Studio 3s are. And maybe that's to, keep them from distorting. Maybe that's to just kind of keep the sound levels at a certain point. But it's not really impressive. I mean, a lot of people want to listen to their music loud, and I feel like the Studio Pros are kind of limited in this aspect. So if you're listening to these wireless, again, you're going to get a little bit more volume, but you're not going to get that same bass impact or that brighter treble that you're getting by using these with the USB-C cable plugged in and using that entertainment EQ setting. So it does have its typical like U-shaped sound signature, but the bass is not, as upfront as I feel a lot of people will prefer. And I don't feel like the treble kind of hits that brightness to a point where it's as pleasing, especially compared to some other headphones that I've tested lately. The video that I did yesterday, which was on the Final UX 3000 wireless headphones, the sound from those, in my opinion, absolutely blows away the sound on the new Beats Studio Pros. And those headphones retail for $150, where the Beats Studio Pros are $200 more than that. And I don't see where that warrants the price tag on the Studio Pros. But if I'm going to break this down and grade this into the different genres that most people listen to, if you mainly listen to pop and hip hop, I only give these a 6 because they lack that subwoofer type feel. And it just lacks in clarity to just bring that type of music to life. And basically kind of the same thing with rock and metal. I only give these a 6 here because they just don't have a lot of life in the drums, and they don't bring out a lot of the crashing of cymbals. Guitar riffs sound somewhat flat, and it's just not as interesting to listen to, again, as it was on the Final UX 3000s that I reviewed yesterday. But when it comes to easy listening, this was slightly better, so I give it a 7 here. And then when it comes to media, I would give it a 7 here as well, because mids just have a slightly warm tone to them. They don't sound as upfront. The treble's not bringing a lot of things to life, and lacking that bass impact means if you're watching a movie and explosions, or gaming and their explosions, they just don't have as much impact. So again, I give these a 7 when it comes to that, and my overall rating is a 6. And a lot of this is based off value. I think a lot of people look at products on, is it worth the money? And I think at $350, it doesn't have the sound, in my opinion, to warrant that price. Now, if you've never listened to, other headphones in this price range, like the Sony, the Bose, or even the Final UX 3000s that I'm talking about, a lot of people are going to think these sound great. They don't have much to compare it to. It does fit that typical consumer U-shaped curved sound signature. It just doesn't do it as well as I've heard it in other headphones. At this point, I feel like the Sony and the Bose and the Sennheiser headphones that are in the similar price range blow these away when it comes to the sound. And ultimately, that is what you're paying for when you're paying for an audio product. So it's really hard to recommend these at their current price tag. So if they go on sale for about $200, it becomes a little more enticing, but it'll take years to get to that point. So as it sits right now, I cannot recommend the Beats Studio Pros at their current price. But guys, that wraps up my video on the Beats Studio Pros. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.